This next category is solve quadratic linear systems level 1. So we're going to click on that. We're going to solve the following system of equations algebraically. So earlier we were solving them graphically, right? Like you literally graph it out and then you solve for the points. However, this time we are going to solve for our 2 points. There's still going to be points, okay? Like you're going to have an answer that looks like that, something comma something. But we're going to solve for those 2 points by using the algebra. So like just showing our work and stuff. So here's where you're going to watch my handwriting be really messy. But what you do is you want to make sure that y is all by itself in both equations. And I see that it is. So that's good. Now that I know that y is by itself in both equations, I can set these stuff equal to each other. So we have x squared plus 4x minus 4, I'm just writing that, is equal to x minus 6. And why can I say these equations are equal to each other? Well, they're both equal to y. And so if they're both equal to y, then they're both equal to each other. And so I set them equal to each other, and we're going to solve for these x values. So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to subtract x on both sides. I want to set it equal to 0, that's why. So x squared plus 3x minus 4 equals, those cancel, equal to negative 6. Remember, I want it to equal 0, not negative 6. So I'm going to add 6, move it over. X squared plus 3x plus 2 equals 0. So we brought everything to one side so that everything's equal to 0 now. We haven't quite solved it yet, but we're almost there. Are there any questions up until here? So from here, we want to actually do x factoring. So I'm going to draw my x factor over here because it's where I have space. Remember, when you do your x factor, you're going to take this number, that's a 2, and you're going to place it right over here. And then you're going to take, what color should I use? I'll use this color. This number, that's a 3, and you're going to place it right over here. So you want 2 numbers that multiply to 2 and add to 3. So what 2 numbers are those? That's just going to be 1 and 2, because 1 times 2 gives us 2, so they multiply to 2. 1 plus 2 gives us 3, because they multiply to 3. 1. All right, so now that we got our 2 numbers that multiply to 2 and add to 3, what do we do with them? Well, remember that this 1 is going to correspond with the x plus 1. And then the 2, this 2, is x plus 2. So then once again, the 1, oh my gosh, that's not what I wanted to do. So once again, this 1 is the x plus 1, and then that 2 is the x plus 2. Okay, so from here, we can solve for x by setting each factor equal to 0. So x plus 1 equals 0. Then you can subtract 1, and x equals negative 1. This is one of your answers. And then on this side, you have x plus 2 equals 0. So you're going to minus 2, x equals negative 2. Okay, so it looks like we have 2 of our answers, but we're not done yet. We have one more step. Okay, so this final step, I'm going to do it after I see if you have any questions up until here. Okay, so it looks like you guys didn't have questions up till here, then we're going to move on. So there's 2 answers, right? But I said the answers need to be a point. So you need to have like x comma y, right? Right now we just have the x values. What are our y values? So you want to do the y values by actually looking at this equation right here. So I'm going to write that equation. Y is equal to x minus 6. And so let's take, I'm going to use the color purple. Let's take this first solution, which is x equals negative 1. And I'm going to plug it into this equation. So I'm going to say x equals negative 1. Then y is equal to negative 1 minus 6. Why am I doing that? Because we're using this equation, right? This says y is equal to x minus 6. When your x is negative 1, y will be in this equation, negative 1 minus 6. You literally just plug in x into the equation for y. And so negative 1 minus 6 gives us negative 7. Therefore, this point is negative 1 comma negative 7. This is your final first answer. The second answer, we're going to do the same thing, but with this point. This point is when x is -2. So we're going to plug it into this equation as well. So when x is -2, y is equal to -2 minus 6. And why do I write it like that? Well, y is equal to x minus 6. In this time, our x is -2, so I plug it in. Y is equal to -2 minus 6. Then you simplify, y is equal to, this becomes -8. So then your final point is x is -2, y is -8. So we have two final answers. Let me type them in now. Our first final answer is a -1, -7. Our second final answer is -2, -8. Are there any questions? Let's submit. Okay, we got it right. Let's go to the next problem. Clear all of that. Okay, so let me scroll up just a little bit. All right, so same process. Let's first double check that we have y by itself in each of these equations. Yes, we do. Okay, now that we know y is by itself, we are going to set these equal to each other. So these two equations, let me write them out. X squared plus 8x minus 9 equals 2x plus 7. So they're equal to each other, but we want to bring everything to one side so that our equation is equal to 0. So in order to do that, I'm going to subtract 2x. We get x squared plus 6x minus 9 equals 7 because those cancel out. Now with that 7, I'm going to move it over by subtracting 7. We get x squared plus 6x minus 16 equals, cancels out, 0. Okay, and so from here, we're going to have to do our x factor method. So I'm going to draw my little x over here. We're going to take this -16, put it on the top. And so you want numbers that multiply to -16. You're going to take this +6 and put it on the bottom. And you want numbers that add to +6. So we're going to think of two numbers that multiply to -16 and add to +6. Those numbers will be 8 and -2, because 8 times -2 gives us -16, and 8 minus 2 gives us 6. Therefore, I can write x with this 8 plus 8, and then x minus 2. Oops, that's supposed to be a 0. There we go. All right, so before I move on, are there any questions up until here? X plus 8, x minus 2 equals 0. We're going to set each factor equal to 0. So on this left side, we have x plus 8 equals 0. That's 8. And then over here, we have x minus 2 equals 0. So on the left side, we can do -8 on both sides. I don't have space here. I'll just write it out to the side. X equals -8. Those cancel out. X is equal to -8. And then for this one, you're just going to add 2. Those cancel out. You get x is equal to 2. So it looks like we have two answers already. However, we need the y value. Remember, these are supposed to be points. X, comma, y. So right now, I only have the x, but I need to find the y. So in order to do that, I'm going to use this equation. Wait, I should circle the whole thing. This equation. So I'm going to write that equation over here. And some of you might be wondering, can we use this top equation? Of course, you could totally use the top equation, but it's a slightly more complicated equation, so I assume you want to plug into the easier one, so therefore you should plug it into the bottom one. However, either equation will work, just that the bottom one happens to be easier, so I'm suggesting that you type it into the easier equation. Okay, So using this equation, let's plug in our first x value. So our first x value was -8. And so I'm going to use the equation y is equal to 2 parentheses -8 plus 7. Okay, let's simplify it. Y is equal to, that gives us -16 plus 7. And then that would be y is equal to 9. Oh, sorry, -9. Negative. And then therefore our point in x comma y format will be -8 comma -9. And then it's the -8 that pairs with it because we plugged in a -8 as our x value, and then we got -9 as our y value. So this is your first answer. Then we can get our second answer by plugging in 2. So in this case, x is equal to 2. This is a separate answer from the purple answer. That's why I'm using different colors. So in this one, we have y is equal to 2 parentheses 2 plus 7. Simply plugging it into that equation. So y is equal to 2 times 2 plus 7. That means y is equal to 4 plus 7. So that means y is equal to 11. Therefore, our final point for this one is our x value 2. We plugged in a 2 and we got the y value of 11. Our final answer is 2 comma 11. And so since we got 2 different points, I'm going to leave it as 2 solutions, because if you just got 1 point, then that's 1 solution, right? But we have 2 solutions, the purple one and the green one. Let me type them in. Okay, so now that I've typed them in, let me pause and see if you guys have any questions. All right, let's submit. The next category is very similar, so I'm going to stop this one and then we're going to go to the next category.